Hello, Supreme Commanders who forged alliances, anybody else that's gone and clicked, and an especially warm welcome to the returning subscribers to the channel. How you all doing out there somewhere from deep inside the UK? Broadcasting out today, you know why? Well, I woke up, opened the curtain just a little bit, saw there was this big bright light in the sky. I'm sure some of you have heard of it, known as the sun. Looked like it was a lovely, nice, warm day, so I thought, you know what, shut them curtains back up again, get the computer fired up, and knock out yet another video for you. Today, a 6 versus 6, and I'm going to roll the dice a bit, go with a name, because you know why, I loved it. Here goes a little something like this. You know that time where the pretty boys play, question mark, handsome, filthy pleasure. Yeah, that was the name of the game. Interesting one. And it stars a player who's got a name, a sock full of kids. That's right, sock full of kids. Or at least kids that would have otherwise been. I'm sure that was a little too long for the username, but I'm sure we all know what we're talking about. I'm certainly not too old to remember those days. Anyways, that's enough of that graphic description there. Walking that very fine line towards what is and isn't acceptable. That said, though, not to be too upset about it, he is, after all, playing as a Cybran, and I'm not sure that is the way that Cybrans may or may not spawn new units. But that's enough of that. Let's go ahead, begin what's happening here, and introduce some of our players and take a look at the map. 6 versus 6 on Adaptive Millennium. As we said, average rating 1331, so a little lower than what I usually do, but that's fine. Always nice to mix and match things up a little bit. Codename down there, Filthy Pleasure, because, well, why not? Match is awfully close to what's going on. We're still in week 11. We're still in the year 2023. We're still talking about Supreme Commander Forged Alliance, and we're talking about one of the best, if not the best, RTS game ever to have been made at any time. We'll see if Sanctuary is going to take over that title when it's ready, but for now, I'm going to hit the button, jump on in, and incidentally, guys, as excited as I may sound, I was a tiny little bit put out because previous to recording this one, I tried to record something else. It was a 2-on-2 ladder. It was shaping up to be a really good game. Bit of a twist and turn, and then there was a desync near the end, and I thought, right, I can just tell everybody what happened, but I did that last time, and like, I've got to do more than just put out games that desync and ask everybody else to trust me. With that said and done, let's fade in the music and focus onto the game at hand today. Now, I am going to have to slow this one down because, as we said, there's 12 players overall. We'll start on the north side, which is Team 1, in this case slightly with the greenish tinge. Team 2 down below there in yellow. So let's start on what is arguably the most dangerous slot for Team 1. It's Blaze of Flasher, 900 rated. Going UEF. So although this guy arguably slightly below average overall, and indeed for the game, it is after all a 1300 odd game, he's at least got himself a good start, knows UEF is the way to go. Starting first land. Okay, over to the north in pink, it's Xenophobus, their 1200 rated Cybran on his little cliff of his own. Going first there, of course, traditionally the air player on this particular slot, Adaptive Millennium. Incidentally, guys, it's a 10x10 version of this map, so expect lots of action, lots of deaths, very quickly, and yours truly to miss a lot of it. Moving over to his right then, if I haven't put enough people off already, it's Wednesday, my day, 1400 rated Aeon. He's going first land there in lime green. Further to his east as we continue on in orange, it's Amon Ra, 2300, also going UEF. By far the highest rated player in the game. Incidentally, 93% balance, at least according to the stats up here. So this guy making up for what you can arguably say is overall a slightly weaker team. And again, being UEF, or rather being a 2300, I messed that one up. He knows to go UEF. Going first land, second land, doing the old trick there. No economic structures. That's the word I'm looking for. No economic structures in between first and second. And again, completely impossible to do this in my day with the best will in the world. Moving on further to the right then, it's our friend that featured so prominently in the intro, a sock full of kids. Welcome to you, sir. How you doing there in white? I really like your name, and I know I'm like giving prematurely man of the match out, and you know, if it were just inside the first minute, I would give you man of the match just for that name by itself, but instead I'll give you name of the match. How about that? Okay, they're in white going first land, Cyber in their 1200, sock full of kids. And then last but not least for the Northern team, Team 1 there in this sort of real bright teal colour, it's Mr. Hell, a 1,000 rated land player. What am I talking about? A 1,000 rated Seraphim player going first land. I'd hit the mute button there so I could have a big nasty cough, and as you'd expect, being as professional as unprofessional as I am, I go and screw everything else up. Do you know, the amount of comments I've had just in the last few days about mispronunciations is incredible. I tell you what, right, if you want to make a video that's like about an hour long, and the worst comment in the feedback is you mispronounced a certain name, you've done pretty alright for yourself. And that's at least a standard I measured by, but I'm not satisfied with it. Going to continue working on it as we continue working on the hydro down here. Konji no Yami. Konjik no Yami. Right, bit of a mouthful there, Mr. Pink in UEF. May refer to you as Mr. Pink or simply Konji. Either way, mean that no disrespect. Of course, being the front player there for Team 2 in the slot, most likely to die. UEF there. 1,300 rated first land, moving out. Over then in the rear for the air slot for the Southern team, it's number 1. It's a 1,600 rated Aeon player, also this time going first land, unlike his opposite number that went first air. I like that name, number 1. Like, no fancy stuff, no creative stuff with words or anything. Just nice and simple, straight to the point. Number 1. No messing about, don't need to be any. And number 1, that's the long and the short of it. End of story. Full stop. And yeah, number 1 agrees. That's it. No more needs saying. And so he doesn't. Moving then over to his west, it's faffing off. 1,600 rated, yet another UEF in this sort of dark green, almost like a dark teal colour. 1,600 rated there. Going first land there as UEF. Looks like going quite heavy on the power, and that's because this hydro a little further away than most of them, although he does have access to quite a bit of reclaim. We'll take a little look at that, but looks like well over 2,500 on this side and at least another 3,000 on that side. And so a decent amount of reclaim in this guy's base. That perhaps explains why he's able to afford to go so heavy P-Gen early on before he's managed to cap himself all the mass points. And in fact, he's only got himself 2 of his mass points so far. The initial ones right next to his commander still remain vacant. All right, moving on further to the west then, it's Surrey. I guess this guy lives at the opposite end of the country to me, but maybe not, who knows. Surrey there, at least the alien race Seraphim already trundling towards the middle there in slow motion. Surrey, how you doing there, pal? Looking nice, shiny and spiky as per usual. And he's got himself first land, hydro and moving out. So this guy absolutely determined to bag himself as much as possible in the mid there, the 1,300 rated Sarah. Further on to the left then, in yellow, it's once handsome, the 1,100 rated Aeon, who's gone first and second. Land is continuing to build and expand. At this moment in time, just chucking out engineers. Commander with its ability to produce faster than anyone else. Staying in the rear with a gear. Let's have a little look. How are you doing economically? Well, look at that. An 1,100 balancing it right like a pro. Has spent almost all of his mass but not stalled. Done the same with the energy but not stalled. And the thing is, one of these engineers, if he does start to run a little lower on mass, he could always switch one of these up and start reclaiming some of these rocks. If not, it's going to be the next engineer out. Wow, an 1,100 rated playing like, well, like a pro. And then last but not least for Team 2 and indeed the game, it's Q-Dude. Q-Dude. No idea what that could possibly mean. It's as if perhaps his L key disappeared somewhere. Either way, he knows what he's doing. First land, he's got 1 mass point, a few energies there. Already bagged himself the hydro and is expanding out. And with that, in 2 minutes, 19 seconds, we'll go back to full pace. And looks like the southern team much more aggressive in their expansion. Both the left and the right and the center commanders looks like they're going to get to the halfway mark before the opposing team, the north side there. Team number 1, ever so slightly slower, heading off to the mid. Not necessarily a bad thing, as long as they didn't stall an economy. Of course, the commander, the best unit at constructing, at least very early on, unupgraded. A Tech 1 commander can build faster than a Tech 1 engineer, as most, if not everybody here knows. Alright, so let's have a look. Where's the first shot going to be fired? And I suspect it's going to be here. We'll have a little look at the mass here. Well, there's so many there from the trees, but if we zoom in, each one of these rocks actually 338 mass. I'll tell you what, big fan of this. I never understood why certain missions, they'd have these massive looking rocks and it'd be like, oh, there's 15 mass or something ridiculous inside them. This here makes a lot more sense. And looks like Surrey and Wednesday, the 13 and the 1400 meeting up there. It's Seraphim down south, Aeon up north. And looks like, at least on the face of it, Surrey is going to get the most out of that. There were 2 big patches of mass. Wednesday there didn't manage to get all of that collection of mass. You know, Surrey was there first, managed to get himself at least 1 or 2 of the rocks, and then Surrey now able to get all of the rest of the rocks there from that other pile for himself. And I assume if he's spilling, which he is, that's going to feed into his teammates. And say someone like this, number 1, was obviously desperate for all of that mass, and so all of the mass there that got spilt from Surrey will have massively benefited his team. Once handsome, I guess a bit like me, starting to get on a bit, no longer got this perfectly symmetrical, young, youthful, shiny, radiant body. Ever so slightly, little bits here and there, starting not be quite as perfect as they were. And you start thinking, like, do you know, I was sick of old people saying stuff about what was wrong with them, and then one day you wake up and you're doing the same. It's freaky, man, I tell you. Once handsome here, nice little run by. Problem is he's running into so many engineers. If Armin Ray's on the ball and at 2300, you'd expect him to be... I don't believe this. The Flare's just run through 1 million engineers and has not put out... killed anybody. Settles himself with a Tech 1 mass extractor, and by the time that is at any risk of being destroyed, Amon Ra there is going to be ready, willing, and able to deal with it. And there he goes. Look at the skill of this player. He pauses the upgrade so he can repair the mass point as it stands as a Tech 1 mass point, and then continues the upgrade. That is like just top tier play. It's much cheaper to repair a Tech 1 mass point than a Tech 2 mass point, so I'll fix it and then I'll carry on upgrading it. I love it. And so far, looks like Once Handsome at minute 5.5, continuing to trickle the odd unit through. Nothing too serious, it's just a minor raiding party. But Mr. Hell, looks like he's got a lot more units on the field here versus Konji down here. Yummy, Mr. Pink. But Mr. Pink got a massive construction abilities, gone very heavy on teching up. And while that's left Mr. Pink light on his ability and numbers to produce units, the amount of units he's going to be able to build is going to massively... And look at this, Mr. Hell. Wow, 1,000 raid. He leads that forward with a scout, takes a peek, realizes, hang on, there's almost nothing there, and starts rolling forward with his units. He just pauses for a moment because he realized, I'd rather not send this lot in with a commander without support, so he's coming in there as well. Mr. Hell is already a Tech 2 commander, not got the gun, but he's Tech 2. That's going to enable him to build and or reclaim stuff much quicker there on the line. Be interested to see how this pans out, but wow, Konji there, Mr. Pink, so heavy on the economic updating. I'm surprised he was able to get away with it for as long as he did. He's almost entirely Tech 2, and now the battle begins. Oh, what a bomb there from Mr. Hell. That's going to take out, no doubt about it, the Hydro. Chaining up the attacks. And Mr. Pink there, spot a bother. Not only has he got the units, but the commander in tow as well. And this Tech 1 bomber just harassing over the top. Important structures here. Tech 1 point defense and a Tech 2 point defense. Assuming he can get that online, which, yeah, there we go. No bother. That's going to start... Oh, how cheeky is this, Mr. Hell? Trying to do the same thing. And at least initially, it looks like Pink there managing to secure that area. Very nice aggression from Mr. Hell. It was close, but no cigar. Quick look in the mid. Looks like a more traditional front being drawn here. Huge number of units from Wednesday. A few more here from the sock full of kids. And he's up against, well, Commander that's backing off. And Once Handsome, who at first glance I thought that was a load of tanks that need moving up. No, he's formed up a shed load of engineers. They need to work on a point defense or something because yeah, he's got problems. Does he have the eco to actually spend that? And it looks like yes, he does. Not sure how many artillery pieces are there, but that's going to at least plug the gap short term. He's also throwing in some T1 TAC bombers. That'll be nice to deal with any run-bys there. On the extremes left, the light red versus the dark red, a much more respectable distance. They're yet to fancy like having a go at each other. What we got here? A rover drone from faffing off, trying to put down a Tech 1 point defense in the back of Mr. Hell's base. Looks like it's been picked up. Ping's going down, and I suspect... Yeah, here we got it. Air coming in. Sock full of kids to the rescue, helping Mr. Hell out. And Mr. Hell's opponent, Mr. Pink there, able to back off and looks like going to be the main beneficiary of all that mass there. And he's going to continue investing that into teching up in his base. There we see it. Looks like the last Tech 1 mass point there going up to Tech 2. And in the back, Tech 2 already halfway towards Tech 3. Very, very quick upgrade. This is going to make Pink very dangerous as long as he can survive this initial period where he's going to be a little vulnerable. Huge number of engineers there from faffing off. Come a crop at a sock full of kids. Looks like the north side are going much heavier on the units. The south side are much heavier on the economic side of things. This, guys, is dangerous because the amount of tanks versus your economic structures, the tanks clearly win that all day. If, however, they don't win, either because they hold back or whatever, or the construction units manage to get a point defense, typically that is going to result in the southern team being the beneficiary of all that eco and going to spend it. That said, we've got a nice strat bomber run here from Amon Ra, who is picking off undefended mass 2 points. Looks like he's got himself at least 6 there. He's also got the ASF to defend his strat that doubles back. Oh, and ground fires between the two. 31 kills, and he's chaining these attacks up beautifully, like a pro, as you'd expect. 36 kills so far and continues to chain. Oh my goodness. The South team need an answer to this. And fast. Basically completely wipe the eco off. Cool dude. What's he on right now? If we take a look on income, 28. So Cool dude is almost knocked out of this economically. Oh my goodness. Eamon is relentless. Number 1 trickles in an ASF. Looks like his team desperately trying to trickle in ASF. The problem is, Eamon's got at least 10 of them there defending Strat Bomb. Oh dear, things going bad to worse for Cool Dude. It looks like he's going to be relegated from this game. 58 kills, that's a 4-star Strat Bomb there. And this Tech 1 spam is not going to be able to break through this, and it's eating long-range artillery. Finally, an ASF gets on the 6 of the Ambassador. Better late than never. Ambassador continues to give Cool Dude hell. Does eventually go down there thanks to his southern team. Amon Ra slightly out of position with his ASF. And now the southern team facing even more. Oh my goodness. Bit of luck there that I caught that. Once Handsome going off to a TNL snipe deep inside back of his base. And the northern team that were maybe behind on eco, that were pushing aggression. Looks like it's paying off. Clearly not a handoff, and suddenly the game is wide open. Let's take a look now how that's impacted the scores. Well, now it's 634 versus 532, favouring the North team. So currently 100 mass per tick. Bearing in mind, the Southern team did just basically lose 2 bases, so you can surmise from that. Add that player on, minus the strapped bomb attack here. Clearly, the Southern team were ahead at that point. Didn't give you a number at that time. Mass totals overall, Team 2, 347 versus 313. That right there proves the point. Overall, the Southern team have had a lot more mass, despite now being well over 100 mass per tick behind. And so, yeah, absolutely crucial attacks there from the north side. Amon Ra just wow with those strap bomber runs. Completely crippled Cool Dude, who's still only on 29 mass per tick. And you can see he has already started rebuilding. One of them is already a Tech 2. Wow. And now, this is the thing when you're not handing stuff off. You can press the side that has no defense, and looks like that's entirely what Sock Full of Kids is doing, exploiting the confusion, the weakness, and looks like Cool Dude has decided to walk into this heavily defended area. Now he's got sniper comm, but he's also got units, but the problem is he's running into a Tech 2 base. It's shielded up, it's backed up with more point defense, Tech 1 and Tech 2. Granted, he knocks down the shield, overcharges the shield, but now all the other units are dead. Laser Flasher refocuses on the command. Oh, look at this. He's got a torpedo launcher waiting for him. Dude down at 1,500 hit points. Torpedo launcher's having its way. At least for now, he's got out to hit back. He's 10,000 hit points. He's got to get away. What sort of range does that thing have on it? Well, there's the answer. He's down to just 700 hit points. 400. I don't believe it. I think we're witnessing the end, and indeed we are. The Southern team just collapsing, and if things weren't bad enough, his base was overrun anyway, thanks to Sock Full of Kids. And although the Southern team were quick to recapitalize on this base, looks like Wednesday, very quick to send units down. Perhaps not the best thing in the world to leave them stood there. Like to see him swarming these engineers that are very quick at placing these point defense down. That's a slight oversight there. Wednesday finally recognizes it, chooses to back off. It's going to go down here. Problem is there's Tech 2 point defense here already, as well as some Tech 1 point defense up front. And so that now far from a certainty. Still, it was very nice to see. And the top team, despite their slow, but I say slow start, they were slow to start economically because they were being more aggressive. And that just shows there, guys, if you try and turtle versus somebody that's aggressive, they're going to win every single time. But one time it didn't, we saw was here, but it was close. I don't believe it. Mr. Pink here. I think all of this is Tech 3, so he's done very little so far for his team. So a player like this that does very little in the early stages has to then really come back quick. You know, he's got to either produce an experimental quick or put a nuclear missile or something. He's got to do something fast that makes up for the fact that basically his team have been carrying. Granted, he was able to bat off that one attack that came his way, but during that whole time, the rest of his team was collapsing. And now we see the 2,300 from the other side, already ferrying units across engineers. He wants to be the beneficiary of the side place here. And so this is where, in this case, Surrey needs to be right quick on the ball, or arguably number one can do it as well. You need to get TAC missile launchers online and quick and prevent this guy from establishing a base. TAC missile launchers, if they try and build a factory or whatever, you need to hit at that right away. Now, granted, some of these could be Tech 2, and he could start setting himself up TAC missile defense, but it looks for now, first order of the day is just to reclaim the Rex. Either way, you do not want this guy establishing a base. If he's building mass points and they're Tech 1, well, it's up to you if you want to go after Tech 1. Most people would say it's a waste of mass, and I'd potentially agree with that. But anything that's starting to look like a factory or a base, deal with it. Now, this is where the pink guy who's going big on eco. What's the situation now? Has he got? Well, he's got a full bar. Come on, Yami, Konjik, build what? Oh, he's continuing to play SimCity. He's already got the advantage. I'm not sure now why the SimCity is continuing. Okay, yeah, big time SimCity. No doubt Raz preset is order of the day there. It's just, can his team carry him as long as it is required until he can get this online? And I'm not seeing any... Oh, there we go. The first strategic missile defense. That's key. If the other team sees this guy is going strong on the eco, guaranteed that's where their nuke's going to go, assuming that they have one. It's like guy on the back there going air grid. We've got land factories here. What we got here, experimental on the way from Ammon. 60 or 70%. We can already hear a chicken bot firing. And that's because Surrey already has one out. And it looks like the chicken is going to use to prevent Team 1 from getting a foothold down here. Wednesday wisely moves out the way of the chicken. He's just got a handful of units, but that's enough to be annoying. Continue to see then what's going on. So as we've seen now, Ammon, he's got his GC finished. That's immediately said south. He's working on a little air grid of his own and continues to SimCity up in his base as well. A crab almost from the sock full of kids. Looks like one of the little kids inside the sock, or what would have been, managed to get away. And he's a big looking kid as well. It's got perhaps call out the alpha male of a kid. Sending south there. Crab belonging to the Cyberns rolling in. So that's at least 2 experimentals coming down from the north side. And Mr. Hell, who we saw be aggressive earlier. So here we see it. He was aggressive earlier. He didn't manage to push through. And so now he's, you could arguably say, is behind. And where we see it, 68 mass, ways behind everybody else. And that's because his early aggression in this particular case didn't pay off. And if we take a look at Yami there, he's basically 3 or 4 times ahead. 277 versus 68. And so that's a huge advantage. Mass tick for mass tick, favouring the southern guy. Of course, it's not a 1 versus 1. But you're going to make this pay. He's now working on a fatty. There's his quantum gateway. There's the drone stations. And there's the first Raz preset rolling out onto the scene. And as providing he can keep all this infrastructure alive, I'm surprised there's not a shield, because we've already seen how devastating the strap bombs can be. It's quite an exposed position to put such a high value economic stuff. Usually you'd expect that from a little further back, but you know, he was able to hold. Scouts coming over from Ammon. Do they have any idea? Well, yes, they do. They can see this guy is SimCitying up good and proper. At least shield your strategic missile defense then. And a little bit of a, at least, oh my goodness, a crab right on the door. He recognizes it. He fast gets to work on the Ravagers. And this is the thing with having all these General Crow kennel drone stations. These Tech 3 engineers are going to be able to spit these Ravagers out nice and fast. Oh, and it's just outside the range. It's got a couple of Percys there that are getting, and those artillery pieces getting huge value. Oh my goodness, that crab just lost half of its health thanks to all that artillery and those Percys. Moving over to the west side, and looks like Chicken here making its way through. I'm on forced to spin round with a GC. Looks like it's going to get a nice few shots on the 6 of this chicken. There we go. Chicken about to get its first rank of vet. There it has it. And chicken now is going to be forced either to back up or deal with the chicken. Or rather deal with the GC. There's the ping. GC continues to fire. Gets a load more damage onto the chicken that eventually gets itself into the drink with about 20% health remaining. A 1-star vet, and that's going to rep up, what's that, 45 hit points a second. Elsewhere, Crab out the drink. This time realizes I'm going to get more damage done exploiting the range. Just 13 kills despite losing all of that health, and that is now going to bat away all this what is mostly spam. Fatty, that can't come soon enough. Again, really surprised that we're not seeing a shield here defending that strategic missile defense. And there it goes. That's the next priority. He realizes he's got air overhead. And the RAS presets, pings going down. Fatties, everybody's recognizing this is what's going on. And at this point, faffing off. And then generally the South team have got to realize this 1300 rated may be below average. In fact, he's the lowest, joint lowest left on our team. But his base is anything but the joint lowest. In fact, we need to keep this guy alive at all costs. He's got a huge structure right now. And the Fatty getting away on this megalith, who's halfway on his way to the first rank. And that forces it down into the drink to preserve itself. And the Fatty's now operating at optimum range, and for some reason Yami brings it back. Mr. Hell starts throwing spam forward. Well, that's nice. Give the Fatty something to eat. Tactical missile launcher here on the front line belonging to Yami. 10 kills so far. It's a 4-star, and so those are high value kills. Take a look. Where does it say? Not seeing it on this occasion. Oh my goodness. Was that Billy Nuke? Oh, it was. Eamon flying himself back on the Tech 3 transport. Puts a Billy in the front of Yami's base. Yami very quick to respawn, puts buzz kills on, realizes that. And now the megalith, what was previously a bunch of purses, is suddenly a bit of an open door. Granted, there are still these Ravagers further back. Megalith now to 25% health, continues to eat Fat Boy fire, and at least for now, firing into the side of the cliff. Oh no! Eamon fires Billy Nuke right at all these ASF. How many we're talking about? Well, let's see. Faffing off with 128 ASF. In comes the Billy Nuke. Oh, he moves. He spots it. Paying attention. Oh my goodness. Doesn't lose a single one. Faffing off. By the way, when I use big on settings, of course, you order my escapades as UEF. This was a huge way to deal with enemy ASF, and I did it all the time. Southern team at least regained control down here, and have already teched up and capped off the Tech 3 there, and are scattering around the SAM sites, which is a very nice technique. It prevents enemy aircraft just lazily patrolling around, or if the other guy isn't paying any attention and their air gets dragged too far south, sprinkling SAM sites around deals with that. If you pack them all together, it makes nice juicy targets to fire at, and so sprinkling them out is the best way of doing it. It's like sock full of kids. It's working big time on some sort of a Corsair snipe. He's already got 44 of them. That is very deadly. That'll easily take out a Fatty or anything coming close to something like that. GC, meanwhile, from Eamon, makes its way down, takes out the badly damaged chicken bot there. that once belonged to Surrey. And look at this. Surrey very quick to put down some Tech 1 point defense with a couple of engineers. Got no else to fire at. He may as well fire at that. And Eamon just going from strength to strength puts a Billy right on top of 4 Tech 3 mass points that were capped off. That right there, again, over 100 mass per tick, but Surrey was enjoying that he's now not down to 321 mass per tick. So that's 25% mass there, wiped off in one shot. Eamon showing exactly what you can do with the UEF Billy Nuke, providing you don't get crazy, you don't get greedy. And what looks like the first major engage there, going down over Mr. Pink's base, who I'm surprised we didn't see a few more SAM sites from, especially with so many Kennel Jones there. And Eamon pierces through all of that. And I don't believe it. All of those Corsairs that we saw from Sock Full of Kids didn't get through. Unbelievable amounts of flak there did the damage. How many have we actually got from Miami? Well, 3 of them. Maybe there was some more. I'm not entirely sure. It killed all of those Corsairs. I'd like to think it was the flak, but we're not seeing it. And now a nuke coming into his base. Oh, and he doesn't have one in the clip. How did he not get a missile? Was that destroyed and he rebuilt it? It must have been. Apologies for missing what just gone on over here. Oh, it's a nice strat snipe there from Baffin. And there goes Yami's base, but not before. Wednesday goes down as well. Eamon goes down. A huge amount of damage going all over the screen, all at the same time. Unbelievable. And that is going to leave a huge hole in the northern side. 2 players there going down. Southern team, you know, it was already gone after that nuke, that player. He was neutered anyways. Wow. 4 versus 3. 4 players still on the north team. Minute 29. Let's get an update on the ecos then. 1.4 versus 1.1 or 1.3. Right on the brink there. So the northern team at 200 and some mass per tick ahead after all of those shenanigans. Reclaims total 148 versus 200,000. So about 50,000 mass ahead there on the south team. And the south team now, 1 fatty, 2 chicken bots rolling up the mid. And at least at first glance, the northern team have got no answer to that. Surrey has got to be aggressive with this, because as we've seen, the northern team still got the upper hand economically. Wow. Megabot down there. Wonder which team was pinging that. I can only assume the northern team, because Sock Full of Kids is now using a megalith. And a bit of a base wars thing going down here with Blazer and Flasher and Surrey. Artillery pieces. Surrey learned his lesson. He's got a shield there this time, as well as a couple of tactical missile defense. Don't want that Billy coming over again. And Blazer this time with an experimental of his own. What's he got? It's a fatty as well. Surrey making masterful use of his experimentals here. Chickens up front. A fatty, which is the rolling artillery behind in the safer spot. And not chucking his units away either. You could argue being a little too cautious, but again, easy to say when you can see everything in global view after the fact. Instead, looks like he's going for the more methodical step-by-step destruction. He's also got himself the rover drones. You don't often see the rover drones used to reclaim. Yeah, you see the kennels. He surely doesn't still have that on his... No, of course he doesn't. He's Seraphim. My bad. Yes, you do see UEF drones used to reclaim. I thought for a moment it was the Commander UEF drones. I thought, you know, like we saw trying to build that sneaky point defense over here earlier on. Also something that you don't see too often. Fatty there, making nice work, clearing out enemy structures where it sees them, but it's got to keep moving. Meanwhile, number one, what we got here, 8 shockers, the strategic bombers, going after the commander, who seemed to lose about 5% of his shield thanks to the rest of his base, absorbing the majority of that. Meanwhile, over here, another attack going down. Oh my goodness, sock full of kids reduced to sub 1700 hit points. Gets him sent under a shield. Meanwhile, there's another attack there from number one. Looks like he's running out of strat bombers. Wow, that was so close. And there's another huge wave of strat bombers coming in here from faffing off. And yes, Pink's got air there, but I don't think they're in position. Oh my goodness. What a game. Sock full of kids, pal. What a name indeed. Looks like you're another one that is now relegated. Well, perhaps not to a sock, maybe a coffin. A thermonuclear radiated laced coffin, mind. And then it was 3 versus 3 on minute 32 and 40 seconds. Taking a quick look at ecos now on the totals. It's 1.3 versus 1, favouring team 2, the southern team. And that in no small part due to Surrey's ability to just continuously expand and tech up so fast wherever destruction was found. I mean, he's done the same thing over here. Yeah, very, very aggressive expansion there from Surrey, and that no doubt keeping his team in the game. Of course, we've still got these 2 chicken bots and the fatty. It's like Surrey has been using them more as a sort of a defensive slash no man's land kind of unit instead of risking throwing them away. I can very much respect that. I don't think we've seen one experimental actually break through the lines in any meaningful way. They've all been probing attacks or attacks that then the experimental was lost. Looks like Surrey determined not to make that same mistake himself. Blaze here also not chucking his fatty away. And looks like Wednesday as well going defensive. Well, if everybody's going to go defensive with their experimentals, that can only mean one thing. People are gearing up for the game ender department. Wow. Number one, beautiful use. 27,338 mass there, and he sends a transport ship out to gobble that up. Let's have a look at number one's eco. Well, look at it now, flooding in as he gets that reclaim. Nom 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 nom. And what's he spending that on? Any sort of Aragon or anything like that? Well, for now, number one looks like more like your typical air grid, although it does have a donut in the works. That about to begin shortly. Faffing off, yeah, this guy here has played SimCity 2000 before he decided to play Forged Alliance, building a base that's worthy of some sort of design award. What's one of these silly names, these futuristic city nonsense that they keep coming up with? Well, faffing off can tell you, look at it. Wow. And Surrey as well, and I just feel like, at least at first glance, the southern team a bit more of a cohesive base. Blaze, well, he's a 900 rated, you can forgive that. Xenophobist, who hasn't featured too strongly yet, has got a shed load, and I mean a shed. Perhaps it's a ton. A ton, by the way, a ton of whalers is more than a shed load. There's 41 there, and 41 whalers, that needs about a second, and it can destroy almost anything in that time. Perhaps if it's up against something like, wow, Fatboy a second as well, maybe versus a megalith it might take 2. And so here we go. Here we see. Is he going to go for it? No. No, 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 no. Don't let the other team get in. You've got... Where's your air? No. No, Xenophobist. I mean, look at the anti-air capability on these things. Wow. How many you got left? 42. So he didn't even lose one. He was able to add one to the mix in that time. Now he looks like some Tech 3 artillery raining across the way. Wednesday looking increasingly strong with his experimentals as well. And a nice impact there. It's like Wednesday's getting busy at trying to shield that area up. Who can blame him? It's at that time. But Wednesday, this looks like a right strong ball. We've got 4 GCs, a shed load of anti-air in the mix, both Flax and the Walking Sam sites. We've got sniper bots. Beautiful. That is a nice combo mix there. There's another GC coming in tow. Clearly, that can wipe this area out. Now it's going to stop it at least there. Huge air engage, meanwhile. Looks like Fafinov not happy with the amount of whalers that Xenophobist has managed to amass. Number 1 agrees, but Xenophobist, oh my goodness. A huge shocker rush from number 1 on the very edge of the screen there takes Wednesday out, and with it, who cares about the whalers? Man, oh man, some of them do manage to survive the nuclear blast. In fact, most of them do, to be fair. And suddenly, the North team down to just 2 players, 36 whalers, most of which are on 50% health or less. Wow, wow, wow. Southern team really knows how to come back from a comeback. Fafinov now eating Tech 3 fire of his own. And you don't want your commander stood too close to the air grid when that goes pop. Fafinov is a little ways away. He's stood near the shields, a little ways from the power, which is perhaps the best way it can be. And Xenophobist now continues to lose his air versus these ASF. And I'm just wondering, you're going to have to switch gears a little bit. Yeah, you both played nice defensive games, but the other team is starting to rain long-range artillery out. It's going to be a base war. Sure, Xeno's got himself a Tech 3. I think... Oh no. Shields buckling. Shields buckling. Oh, that was almost a huge number of drone kennels that went up. You're going to have to upgrade some of these shields or build some more. And I know I'm going to miss it, but I can't just focus on the shield collapse. Fatty versus Fatty going on over here. And at this moment in time, I don't think the Southern team need to be aggressive when it comes to the ground. I think they can just continue with their ego. I mean, they're hugely ahead. 1.5 versus 1.1. Shockers continuing to damage around the side. Although Xeno has been quick with the Sam site, and so they're not going to have their way in quite as before. Sure, they get a Tech 3 mass point, but that's it. It took, what's that, 4 strats to do so. And I'm just wondering, is Xeno Abe going to be able to win this? Oh, he did manage to break through part of Fafinov's base. There's another nice shell, takes out 2 more fusions and another air fac. At least half, if not 2/3 of Fafinov's grid there remaining alive, thanks to his prudence. We're making shields. And now we see Donut and the chickens moving in, and they get inside the range of the fatties, who are caught with their pants down. Xeno, very nice with the whalers. Is it going to be in time to save at least one of the fatties? Well, there's the answer. No, one of the chickens goes down, and the Ion Storm is for sure going to help Xeno here pick up 2 and 3 as well. There goes 2. Surrey sends in a limited number of ASF. Fafinov with a huge number of ASF, and I think with that spells the end of Xeno's air. 2 of the 3 chickens goes down, and now Donut in the rear. Xeno's base, and if he didn't have problems before, well, he does now. Donut parks itself over Xeno's commander. Xeno pops down at the same time the Donut gets popped down, and I don't believe it. The guy who I said was no doubt the weakest, who was in the most dangerous position, is the last player alive for his team. Laser of Flasher still in the game. Sam Site City Central once again. Shockers galore from faffing off despite being UEF. And this is just a matter of time now. Everything's going to be refocused, and Blazer of Flashes says, sod that, and does the towel. I'm out of here. And with that, game over. 41 minutes, 7 seconds, and a slight comeback of a comeback on that one. Team 2 starting very strong economically, were made to play the price. 2 players down. The top team were going from strength to strength, and then suddenly, out of nowhere, out the corner of my eye, where weren't quite paying attention in the right spot, so we were focusing on one commander that died while 2 others died on the other team. And then the Southern team managed to claw it back. Man of the match, I think, no doubt about it, is a joint venture between these 2 guys here. The purple and the teal. Both of these guys featured very strongly. Purple there with his ability to make the air. And number 1 there with his ability on despite not expanding so aggressively, was able to put an end to all the rest of it and just about held on to his air grid while eating Tech 3 artillery fire. And with that, ladies and gentlemen, the end of the game. Hope you enjoyed, and until next time, take care. Ta-ra.